Hey, I'm Mr. Kev, and welcome to Power Oversteer, the most watched show that Roman Grosjean once called a funt. Whatever that means. Oh, what a banker. This episode is another double preview like the one I did for IndyCar a few weeks ago. The reasons are the same this time around, so I didn't manage to get the season preview out in time before St. Pete, so I thought I'd bundle it together with this Grand Prix of Alabama preview. Has all three Mazda Road to Indy series are racing this weekend. Therefore, let's begin with the season preview for the last step before the Verizon IndyCar series, the Indy Lights Championship. It's the second year of the IL-15 era, and after a debut season that saw the car count struggle to break over 12, thankfully there's a couple more competitors this time around. Beginning with Andretti Autosport, Shelby Blackstock returns after a difficult rookie season as the lone driver for most of it. However, he did improve in the second half of the year, getting a podium in Mid-Ohio on his way to 10th in the championship, so we'll be looking to continue those signs of improvement this year. Dalton Kellett steps up after a couple of seasons, finishing 10th in the Pro Mazda Championship. Last year with Andretti, he did get a sole podium in Iowa as he got better towards the end of the season, but it will be a rookie campaign all about learning for the Canadian. One of the European racers coming over this season is Dean Stoneman, and what an exciting addition to Indy Lights he is. The Briton has an incredible pedigree in single-seaters going back to 2010 when he won the short-lived Formula 2 Championship ahead of current Renault F1 driver Jolyon Palmer. Unfortunately, after that season he had to miss the next year to battle testicular cancer. Thankfully he won that battle and was back powerboat racing in 2012 before returning to cars with Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain, then in GP3 finished runner-up to fellow Brit Alex Lynn in 2014. A move to Formula Renault 3.5 with Red Bull backing last year didn't work out as well as hoped with dams, so crossing the pond represents another challenge for the 25-year-old in a career full of them. Who knows how well he can do this season, but following the footsteps of fellow ex-Carlin driver Max Chilton to IndyCar has to be the goal. Returning to Indy Lights after a year away is Zach Veach. The 21-year-old was associated with Andretti Autosport for most of his Mazda Road to Indy career, including 2 years at Indy Lights in 2013 and 2014, where he finished 7th and 3rd in the championship. However, last year he chased an IndyCar dream that didn't materialise, but he returns this year with Bilardi Auto Racing, and even though it's his first year of the IL-15, he should be among the title challengers. Joining the most experienced driver in the field at Bilardi Auto Racing is one of those Europeans with an impressive resume. Felix Rosenqvist won about everything you can in F3, the Masters of F3 at Zandvoort, the MacLeod Grand Prix twice, and last year became the European F3 champion. However, the 24-year-old Swede found a glass ceiling in Europe as he was stuck in F3 for 5 years. Now with the move across the pond, hopefully it breathes fresh life into his career, and no doubt he'll be fast on the road and street courses. No, if he wants to bid for the title, ovals could be his undoing. Carlin had an impressive first year in American Indy Lights last season as they battled for the title with Ed Jones and won in Iowa with Max Chilton. This year they've added an extra car to their lineup and a couple of new drivers, with Chilton moving up to IndyCar. Ed Jones came along with them from Euro F3 to Indy Lights last year, and he won the first 3 races of the season, although he didn't win for the rest of the year on his way to 3rd in the championship. The Dubai-based Brit will no doubt be aiming to go 2 better this season as he's among the title favourites. Also moving across from Euro F3 last year was Felix Serrades. Racing for Bilardi, he won in Milwaukee on his way to 7th in the championship, but with a year's worth of experience in the IL-15 and in America, the Puerto Rican driver should be much better this year and perhaps adding more wins to his tally. Final driver at Carlin this year is the rookie Neil Alberico, one of the most highly rated Americans on the Mazda Road to Indy ladder. He has finished runner-up in the USF 2000 Championship back in 2013, and last year was runner-up in the Pro Mazda Championship despite winning 4 races, joint most out of anyone. He was just a bit too inconsistent to battle Uratala and get that title. But his pattern in the Mazda Road to Indy has been that in his first season he kind of learns, and then in the second he goes for the title. So it'll be interesting to see how the 23-year-old does in his learning year this season. At Juncus Racing, there's Zachary Clermont-Demeno. The just turned 18-year-old competed in Formula Renault 2.0 last year and won the Invitational class in the MSV F3 Cup. For the Canadian, this year's all about adjustment, and so I'm not expecting too much from him, but it'd be nice to see him get a few top fives. Alongside him is one of the guys gunning for the title. Carl Kaiser had an up and down rookie Indy Lights campaign last year as he grabbed a couple of podiums on his way to 6th in the championship. But the 20-year-old American improved as the year went on, and particularly in the finale he grabbed an impressive second place in the first race at Laguna Seca. So look out for him to grab maybe his first win in the series and to be right up there every weekend. Smith-Peterson Motorsports is like the Penske of Indy Lights, always up there challenging for the title, but for the second year in a row last season they fell short with Jack Harvey. With the Brit gone, leading the charge this season is R.C. Anderson. 19-year-old American was impressive in his rookie year in Indy Lights last season after he stepped up from USF 2000 where he finished second in the championship in 2014. Last year he grabbed a win at Mid-Ohio on his way to 4th in the championship, and so this season he has to be one of the hot favourites for the title. Alongside him again this year is Scott Anderson. The American has a couple years worth of Indy Lights experience with Fanforce United in 2014 where he finished 8th in the championship. Then last year he finished on the podium at the Freedom 100 on his way to 9th in the standings, so don't expect too much from the 26-year-old, especially as he's sharing his seat this season with Hermin Choi. The 31-year-old Korean took part in the season finale last year at Laguna Seca, and let's just say he's got some learning to do. One of two new faces at Smith-Peterson Motorsports this year is Santiago Urratalo, or Urrato, I still can't pronounce his name. He came over from GP3 in 2014, and last year he won the Pro Mazda Championship off the back of some fantastic consistency, finishing outside the top 5 only twice in 16 races. So for the 19-year-old, it should be a very interesting year for him. Maybe he will be right up there, maybe he'll be, just learning like his title rival from last year, Alberico. It'll be interesting to see how he goes. The other new recruit is the third driver coming over from Europe this season, Andre Negrão. The Brazilian spent the past couple of years in GP2 with Ard and not really doing much though, finishing 12th and 20th in the standings. But he has a good amount of experience compared to most of the field this year, and a bit like Urratalo, we kind of expect him to do well with the team he is with. So he could be a bit like Max Chilton last year maybe, battling for the top 5 in the championship, and it could be a good battle with Urratalo about who comes out on top this season between the XGP3 and XGP2 racers. Pelfrey are the only team competing in all 3 rungs of the Mazda Road to Indy this year after they purchased the assets of the 8-Star Motorsports team in the off-season. They've even got one of their ex-drivers to come along as well in Scott Hargrove. The Canadian competed in only St. Pete last year, but has an impressive resume on the Mazda Road to Indy as he won the USF 2000 Championship in 2013, then finished runner-up to Spencer Piggott in the Pro Mazda Championship in 2014. So I have no doubt the 21-year-old can do a good job for Pelfrey this season. Team Pelfrey's other recruit is an Indy Lights veteran. Juan Pedro Hito competed in 2014 for Smith-Peterson Motorsports on his way to 7th in the championship. Then last year with Bilardi, he grabbed a podium in Milwaukee on his way to 8th in the standings. So with his third different team in 3 years, it's difficult to see the Colombian advancing up the order. In fact, he could be struggling to cling on to the top 10 in the championship of how stacked the field is this season. Finally, McCormack Racing announced that David Hamilton Jr., the son of the former IndyCar driver, was going to drive for them this year, but they were struggling for funds and we haven't seen them yet this season. After Indy Lights, there's the Pro Mazda Championship. Unfortunately, the championship has suffered a slump in entries this year, with the national class seeming to have evaporated and Andretti Autosport have withdrawn from the series, which seems to have left the way for Team Pelfrey to dominate. Will Tan had an exciting first year in Pro Mazda with Andretti last season, as he won 4 races, the joint most of anyone, but only finished 4th in the championship due to his inconsistency he will need to rein it in this year if he wants to challenge for the title. Joining the Malaysian is the Mexican Pato O'Ward. He was quite impressive as a rookie last year, grabbing a few podiums on his way to 6th in the standings, but the 16-year-old with Pelfrey will be aiming for wins and maybe the title if he can get a full season's budget together. Completing the Pelfrey lineup is another one of those highly rated Americans on the Mazda Road to Indy feeder ladder, Aaron Teliz. Last year in USF 2000, he won at Barber on his way to 3rd in the standings. The year before that, he won at Lucas Oil Racer on his way to 4th in the championship. So he's a very consistent driver in USF 2000, even though he didn't grab many wins. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes in Pro Mazda this year. Could he be very consistent and be right up there in the championship? Or will he end up as the 3rd Team Pelfrey car, probably 3rd in the standings? Leading the charge against Team Pelfrey could be Cape Motorsports with Wayne Taylor Racing pair Nico Jamin and Jake Edison, who are also the title rivals from USF 2000 last year. On that occasion, Jamin won out, as he got 10 wins, including the last 6 rounds of the season, to grab the title from the American Australian. And for the Frenchman this year, I expect him to do quite well and maybe be ahead of Edison in the standings, but it should be a good battle between the pair once again. You know, grabbing the odd podium maybe, but battling to be the best of the rest. As for Edison last year, he finished 2nd in the standings after finishing 3rd in the standings in 2014, but with the step up to Pro Mazda, it should be a bit more even between the pairs on the same team this year, and as I said, I expect it to be really close between these two very good young drivers. Meanwhile, at Juncus Racing, I expect Garrett Gus to lead the charge, as last year the Canadian came on strong, winning at Toronto, then both races in the season finale at Laguna Seca on his way to 3rd in the championship. So I expect him to maybe challenge Pelfrey, but certainly challenge the Cape Motorsports with Wayne Taylor Racing pair. Also at Juncus, our American Will Owen, who has a rookie last year, grabbed a few podiums on his way to 7th in the standings. Australian Jake Parsons, who comes over from Asia after finishing 2nd in the Formula Pilot China Series, and Argentinian Nicolas De Pero, who finished 6th in the F3 Brazil Championship last year. Finally, JDC Motorsports competes with Jorge Savalos after the Mexican last drove in Formula Renault in 2014 after spending last year recovering from surgery on ulcers. There's World Speed Motorsports with Bobby Ibile, who steps out of the national class this year, while national class veteran Jay Horag with his M1 Racing team is the only entry in the national class so far this year. Finally, the entry series onto the Mazda Road to Indy, the USF 2000 Championship. It features the smallest cars in the feeder ladder to IndyCar, but has the biggest field this year. The lowest rung of the Mazda Road to Indy is in its last season with the Van Diamond chassis before it gets replaced by the Tatis USF 17, a full carbon monocoque chassis built to the latest FIA F3 test specs. The chassis will also be the basis of the PM18, the new Pro Mazda car from 2018. After having only 13 full-time drivers last year, this season features over 20 on 12 teams. Beginning with Afterburner Autosport, Dakota Dickerson won the Skip Barber shootout and earned a $200,000 scholarship from Mazda to race this year in USF 2000. Joining him is Brazilian teenager Felipe Ortiz, who's in his first year racing cars outside of Brazil. At another midfield team from last season, Arms Up Motorsports, is Victor Franzoni. The Brazilian has competed in USF 2000 since 2014, when he won his first race in the championship at St. Pete on the way to 5th in the standings. Last year he took part in the first 6 races of the season with Afterburner, winning in Noda before stepping up to Pro Mazda, where he ended up 16th in the championship. Now he's back in USF 2000 and with his experience should be right up there. The 20-year-old is joined by American Max Hanratty, who finished 12th in the standings in his rookie season last year. Last year's champions Cape Motorsport with Wayne Taylor Racing have another formidable lineup to get its 6th title in a row. Canadian Parker Thompson was a consistent top 10 finisher in his rookie year as he finished 5th in the standings last year with JDC Motorsports. He will be a favourite to step up and challenge for the title this time around. Along with the guy who beat him to be the best rookie of last year, Anthony Martin. The Australian was a consistent top 5 finisher as he got 4th in the championship with John Cummins Key Racing. Completing the multinational lineup is Nikita Lastotkin. The Russian got 7th in the standings with Team Pelfrey last year, but I'd be interested to see if the 25-year-old can take the step up like we expect of his teammates. Chastain Motorsports is a new team to USF 2000 after being successful in F1600 recently, although it started life as an IndyCar outfit in the late 90s. In its cars are Americans Austin McCusker and Sam Chastain. Another new team, this time thanks to the reintroduction of the national class this season after 2 years away, is Fat Boy Racing, with Brendan Pudderbach and Charles Finelli driving. A familiar name to the series is J Motorsports, who returned after a partial season last year with Augie Lurch. This time they have Australian Luke Gabbin as the lead driver with American Cameron Das part-time. Gabbin finished 6th in last year's championship thanks to his consistent top 10 finishes, and proving that to consistent top 5 finishes on podiums will be the name of the game. JDC Motorsports finished 5th in the team's championship last season, but have lost their star driver in Thompson. Replacing him comes Tazo Ortiz, with fellow American Robert Euler competing in the national class. Ortiz comes into the Mazda Road to Indy as the reigning SCCA Formula Mazda National Points Champion, the NASA Triple Crown Champion, no he didn't race spaceships, and the winner of the Formula Mazda category in the Formula Car Challenge. He might have to get used to not winning this year, but a top 10 in the championship would be a good rookie season. John Comiskey Racing is coming off the back of a strong 3rd in the team's championship and has brought in Ida Agrarian and Lucas Cool to replace their Aussies from last season. Norwegian Agrarian finished 10th in the stands with Team Pelfrey, but the 2014 F1600 champion will be looking for a more consistent year, while Brazilian Cool is in his first year of car racing. Paps Racing Services was the runner-up last year and will be looking to go one better with an all-round impressive lineup. Jordan Lloyd ran a few races with John Comiskey last season, but mostly spent his year winning the Australian F4 title. Winning should be something that continues this season. American Garth Richards switches from Team Pelfrey after grabbing 9th in the standings last year. Also part of the solid rookie group that covered the bottom half of last year's top 10 in the championship was Lofeng Lao. The Chinese racer is one of the few drivers with the same team he drove for last season, so we should see a big step up from the 7th place finisher in last year's standings. RGB Motorsports was last in the team's championship after competing only 3 rounds last year, but they are back with American McCall Stevens and Clint McManahan for a more substantial campaign this time. Spencer Racing fields Eric Felgaris in the national class, and finally, there's Team Pelfrey with 4 new drivers to the Mazda Road to Indy. TJ Fisher has come back to America after a couple of years in Europe, where he finished 8th in the Formula Renault 2.0 Alps last year as the highest placed rookie. There are some expectations on the young American's shoulders to do well this season, along with James Munro. The Kiwi won the Formula Masters China Series in 2014 and spent last year doing some GT racing while starting the year racing in the Toyota Racing Series in his native New Zealand. He finished 7th in that championship this year, and a similar finish in the standings would be a good start to his American career. Finally, Pelfrey have promoted a couple of teenagers. They ran in F1600 last year. 16-year-old Robert McGuinness was 8th in the championship, while 14-year-old Jordan Kane was 4th, despite missing the first 6 races of the 21 race season. Both have long careers ahead of them, and getting a top 10 in the championship could be good aims for them in their first year on the Mazda Road to Indy ladder. There we go, all caught up. So let's look ahead to this weekend and predict what's going to happen in Sweet Home, Alabama. Once again in Indy Lights, you could pick half the field to win either round. RC Anderson is the only podium getter from last year's races in the field, so look for him to be strong once again. After an indifferent St. Pete weekend, he got a podium in Phoenix to kick-start his season and needs some good results to close the gap on Cole Kaiser at the top. Felix Sarles was also good last year, and with Ed Jones, should be challenging for Carlin. Their teammate Neil Alberico won here last year in Pro Mazda, while Loretta got a double podium on the way to his title, but Indy Lights is a different ballgame for them. Experience in these machines will be even more key around Barbers. It's a tricky course to get to grips with. That's why it'd be interesting to see how Andre Negrell, Felix Rosenquist and Dean Stoneman do. Rosenquist took to Indy Lights like a duck to water in St. Pete, but ran into a brick wall when introduced to an oval in Felix. Road courses are his background, but Barber is one with teeth, a thin margin of error and gravel traps. It's almost like what would be considered old school in Europe now. Finally, leaving the best tip till last with Zach Veach. The Bilardi driver got a double podium, including the win the last time he raced here in 2014 with Andretti. Despite it being his first time here with the IL-15, he hasn't looked rusty so far this year, with a couple of good races in St. Pete and a nice charge from the back in Felix. This could be the weekend where the 21-year-old launches himself up the championship order from an unrepresentative 9th at the moment. For Pro Mazda, 2 words: Team Pelfrey. It's hard to see anyone beating out the outfit that dominated in St. Pete. And today's one round here in USF 2000 last year, and despite being a Pro Mazda rookie, he is with Pelfrey. Real Town won the first race with Andretti last season before having an adventurous time in the second one, and Pato Award had a decent outing as a rookie last year. The challenge to Pelfrey guys, I'm probably looking to Garrett Grist. The Canadian grabbed a podium with Juncus round here last season, and his couple of years worth of experience racing with the Star Race Cars machine round Barber should help. Also keep a smaller eye on Cape Motorsports with Wayne Taylor racing pair Nico Jamin and Jake Edison, who got podiums here in USF 2000 last year. With only 10 cars competing this weekend, I can guarantee that at least most of the field will get top 10 finishes in both races. Finally, in USF 2000, the Paps dominated St. Pete with Jordan Lloyd and Lou Fanel, so they should be fighting up there once again. Along with them could be podium finishers from 2015, Ozzy Anthony Martin and the experienced Victor Franzoni. K Motorsports with Wayne Taylor Racing's Parker Thompson got a couple of top 5s round Barber last year, so could it be the weekend for the Canadian to break through? And J Motorsports' Luke Gabbin is the coaster challenger to the Paps pair after St. Pete, so look out for him to continue his good start to the season. Man, there are lots of good young drivers to keep an eye on in the Mazda Road to Indy this year. Hope you've enjoyed the separate preview, and we'll be keeping an eye on the action this weekend on YouTube, or if you want a live timing as well, at racecontrol.indycar.com. But who are you keeping an eye on in the Mazda Road to Indy this year, or for this weekend? Let me know down below, and I'll be back with a review of all the action from this weekend next week. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.